Although I learned OOP practices in my university programming courses, I recently came across Bob Martin's solid principles, and after studying up on them, I decided to make a program for each principle to not only demonstrate my understanding of the principles, but also because one of the best ways to learn something well is to teach it. Keep in mind, I've tried to make each program as simple as possible, so we're only going to deal with one principle at a time, and for simplicity's sake, I might leave out some important code here and there, like memory deallocation or deconstructors and header files. That being said, let's get to the content. Our next solid principle states that each class should be open for extension but closed for modification. Rather than creating a standalone class that controls object-specific behavior, we should instead create an abstract class that lets its child classes implement their own class-specific behavior. Now we'll go into an example that was inspired by this meme. To demonstrate how not following this principle can be a problem, we have an airman class and a marine class, which are both child classes of the recruit interface. We want each child of recruit to act differently based on which child they are. To do this, we've implemented a joint command class which keeps all possible actions for a recruit, regardless of what type of recruit it is, and has a perform duties function which ensures each recruit calls its own intended behavior. We wouldn't want the Marine to do an Air Force chant, and we wouldn't want the airman to have to run 3 miles. So our main function creates some recruits and a joint command instance, which takes the recruits and ensures they perform their own specific intended behavior. This works for now, but if we had to introduce a new type of recruit, like a Navy seaman, of course we'd have to create the seaman class and create a Navy seaman in our main function. But in our current program, the way our architecture is currently set up, we'd also have to edit the joint command class, which is already working great and we already tested it, and we really don't want to do all that again. This is where we violate the idea of closed for modification. We shouldn't have to modify the joint command class every time we want to create a new object or a new recruit. So instead of doing that, we decided to rewrite our whole project according to the open-closed principle. So we can see that our main function looks exactly the same as it did before. But rather than keeping all possible behavior in the joint command class, we've used virtual functions in our recruit interface, with the exception of the one method that they all have in common, and we've implemented the class-specific behavior in each class itself. Only the Marine class contains behavior specific to a Marine. Only the Airman class contains behavior specific to an Airman. Now that each class implements their own specific behavior, changes to the specific classes, or the child classes, and their behavior is limited to that class itself. For example, if I wanted to change the way a Marine locates crayons, that change will stay local to the Marine class. We won't have to recompile the joint command class because we didn't have to edit it when we made that change. More importantly, creating a Navy Seaman class and other new classes with specific behavior has become significantly easier. You can see here that our main function looks the same as it did in our previous project, but when we instantiate the Seaman class, the only part of our code that changes is the Seaman class itself, and also a few lines in our main function. Joint command was never touched. And that is the open-close principle.